Absent. Shri Swapan Dasgupta.
Thank you very much for giving me the time, although I know it's, the last legs of this. Sir, we've heard the entire chronology of the dastardly acts which have happened. And I think at the end of the day, all sections of the House, despite the change, the shift in their rhetoric, will agree on a few things and have agreed on a few things. One is that the rule of law must always prevail in India. Secondly, I think everybody agrees without hesitation that there is no space for extrajudicial killings, whether they come in the form of lynching or whether they come in the form of mob violence or what have you. And thirdly, I think at the end of the day, we also seem to agree that many of what took place in the past few months, few years, some of them at least were definitely hate crimes. I think on all this, there is a measure of agreement. I think where that agreement stops is on the question of attribution, of who is responsible. Now, the leader of the opposition was very kind and he was very precise in saying, in a sense, that these were the acts of individuals in his intervention to the leader of the Anna DMK, and said these were the acts of individuals. But he went on then to add a political complexion to it. A political complexion which was exacerbated by the intervention of Sitaram Yechury, who quoted generously from German history and who sought to link everything to a sort of Hitlerian regime which has suddenly come about. Now, a certain question arises. Has India changed fundamentally? Has the character of India changed fundamentally since May 2014? The leader of the opposition said that it's a matter of great shame that nobody in that train came forward to help the boy in Ballavgarh station. And at the same time, he quoted a New York Times piece suggesting that in the United States, people act differently. Now, are we to conclude from there that India has suddenly become a lesser sort of human being? That suddenly all humanity in India has been taken out? That what they used to say, that Indians don't deserve independence because we are lesser beings, has that what has happened to India? Take the case. Is violence, political violence or anything, something new which has happened since 2014? I think a lot of us remember the name of a police station in Uttar Pradesh called Chauri Chaura. Gorakhpur. Thank you, Mr. Tiwari. Chauri Chaura was famous for one thing, that it was a group, a crowd of Indian nationalists carrying Congress flags, shouting Mahatma Gandhi ki jai, who burnt 22 policemen. 24, I stand corrected. Gandhiji called off the movement after that. A lot of people said he was a betrayal. Now the point is, are we going to tar the entire nationalist movement because of what happened in Chauri Chaura? It's a question we should ask ourselves. A lot of aberrations took place, sir. Gandhiji said,
what Gandhiji did, you should also, that he stopped the freedom movement and said no.
Gandhiji withdrew the movement, sir. Gandhiji withdrew the movement and a lot of people opposed it. A lot of congressmen opposed it. They opposed it. In 1857, we saw a lot of violence. Violence has been an unfortunate part of Indian history. It has been an unfortunate part. Does that make us lesser human beings? To say that suddenly humanity has been taken away from India is, to my mind, shameful. And if tomorrow we start feeding into the New York Times and the prejudice I don't think we do ourselves any credit. I think what people have to realize is that while extrajudicial killings are out of order, unacceptable, and should be met with the strongest opposition, strongest action, it has to be also recognized that beef is a very, very sensitive subject in India. You have to acknowledge that, because you have to acknowledge that there must have been compelling reasons why in the directive principles there is a clause about cow slaughter. You have to also recognize why so many legislations since independence have been passed against cow slaughter. And they weren't passed, alas, by the BJP, they were passed by Congress governments. So there is a certain degree of intense sensitivity. The question is, how do we manage that sensitivity and yet prevent this sort of vigilantism? I think that is the real challenge which faces us. And it's not an issue which should divide the House. It's a common project. It really is a common project. I find it very peculiar that a lot of people are trying to use this vigilante killing into saying, you know, the whole thing is there should be an absolute food freedom. In that case, they will say there should be absolute drink freedom and Bihar should abolish, take back its prohibition laws. So there is no such thing as absolute. There are certain sensitivities which have to be recognized. I believe that the government and the opposition must sit together to find out how best to manage this thing. That is the real crucial thing. We have to get around over this tutu meme issue, while taking into account that law has to be respected. Sir, I think we need to recognize that this is an issue which has tarred the name of India. It has been deliberately done, and it has been done with a certain sense of purpose, and there are people who, in terms of trying to be more cosmopolitan, more enlightened, have tried to suggest that, somehow these are lesser beings who protect the cow and all that. That's sort of primitive. I'm just finishing, sir, one last sentence. Yes, and therefore, I would say that while certainly everybody has political differences, and they must be there, I think there is no reason to suggest that just because you are anti-lynching, you have to be anti-GST, you have to be anti, something else, and this has to be connected with the economy, etc. This is a separate problem. Address it, because if we don't address it, we are going to tar the name of India. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now